morning everybody, it's Christian from Serene Education with the Forex Majors and Analysis update for the 16th of November 2011. Hi guys. So, what's happening today? I see a third consecutive day of downside movements. It's been a fantastic week. I've just checked my trading account. I've had trades executed since the 9th of November. Primarily the Forex Majors, including the two cross pairs. So it'll be Euro-US dollar, sterling against US dollar or cable, the US dollar Swiss franc, and I've taken two extra trades on the Euro yen cross pair and sterling yen, and I'm up a total of 1187 pips from the 9th, so not a bad return on investment, time invested. And this is all stemming down to this move, or what we're seeing in euro at the moment that's occurring. Let's have a look at the charts. Let's put in some support and resistance lines here using some retracement figures. There we go. We have, as I speak now, the 23.6% mark, which happened to be price support just recently, and yesterday's close above. But you can see overnight trading on the Asian session has seen price falling even further and heading below that level. Ideally intraday, that would be our resistance level. So if price could stay below that, then ideally we could see further extensions to the downside. So make a note of that at 13,480. If price can stay below 13,480, then we should see further extensions to the downside. This momentum, ideally we're hitting back down to 1315. I'm just going to add some more lines to this. So we had the high to the low. Let's do one from the low to the high. Let's see where price is at the moment. Yeah, well below 61.8. So this extension, this pullback here is well below the 61.8, which happened. We saw a slight consolidation not too long ago. That's null and void now. So as it stands now, the only one in place now that could actually help as a support here is this 23.6% mark. Going forward, if price fails to actually rally and find support above this level, then we won't see price actually attempting 61.8 intraday today. But if it closes below this 23.6 during the course of today, then ultimately what we're looking for is potentially a slight pullback to occur underside of 23.6 and then further extensions to the downside. So by price closing today, hopefully below 23.6 would indicate that price is really moving to the downside, and if that's the case, then we should see further extensions to at least the 13,1500, which we've been there before. I'm just looking at this move that's happened over here. We could potentially see that as a breakout. So let's have a look and see if there's a fib projection on here. You can see the 100%. That move over here that we've seen over the past couple of days is 100% of that initial move that happened recently, that massive bearish candle we saw not too long ago. And 100% of that is here just above the 1340-100. So make a note of that, guys, because we could see price just consolidating. And if that consolidation can actually occur on the underside of 23.6, then what we could potentially be seeing ultimately is that pullback and then that continuation lower. So just be aware of that. You can see trend direction. If I just draw a quick trend over here, you can see price action. The trend is very much in favor, quite a strong downside move and swinging low. So as it stands now, you can see the 50 period and the 200 period moving average and the 20 period moving average all above price as we're heading lower. Interesting to see that the actual lows over here are being squeezed, and as I mentioned, you can see quite clearly if you just take the bodies for example, or if you go for the wicks, that still indicates we could see potential support being found around here, roughly the 1340-100 mark, and then we could see a potential bounce. So just be aware of that intraday. So 1341 is going to be your support. A break below that would definitely, or we could see a consolidation bounce around that area. Price has to stay below 23.6, ideally by the close of this evening. So make a note of that. Our sitting level intraday would be roughly around the 13. Give it a bit of wiggle room, say 13,500 to be more precise if you wanted to. But as long as it can stay below 13,500 tonight when the close would indicate further extensions lower. And we could see consolidation bounce here at 1341. So just make a note of that. So 1341 intraday. So I'm just going to draw a line over there because that will show my intraday. And I've drawn one on my 23.6, which is going to be my seating level. And now if we go to an hourly chart, for example, there's our hourly chart. You can see that 1341 I mentioned earlier, just below price. Let me just stick that in properly. Okay, so that's where it could potential support be around the 100% mark. Notice since we've actually seen that nice breakout to the downside, price has really been swinging lower, making these beautiful following the trend line to the downside really nicely. And we're now trading below this 23.6. Now 23.6, as I mentioned, is the upside band. We want price to stay below that because that happens to be price support. Okay, you can make it 23.6, you can make it 50, it's entirely your choice. But we're definitely going to see price action move in and around that area. And if price can stay below that, going into the latter part of today, then it'll probably confirm that we're going to see further downside moving from this. But just be aware that there is this little support, this consolidation area at the bottom here. And you can notice that RSI is pretty much oversold at the moment. So we are in for a bit of a consolidation range. As long as that consolidation happens at the underside of this major line over here, the 1349 mark, then we could see further extensions lower. I think if we see price trading above 1350, then we should be looking ultimately back up to 1356 as our next potential target intraday. Next up is sterling. Let's have a look. Also falling through the Asian session. Let's have a look. Let's draw some support and resistance lines here. Okay, what do we have? 38.2% in play. Price support and resistance here, quite noticeably through parts of September and October, and the 50% line in play. 15,800 is going to be a very important area. Are we going to see a bounce? There is news out today on sterling. We have Mr. Merv King speaking. We have BOE inflation report. Very important. Is the inflation report going to be quite interesting? Very important. We have a lot of Claremont change announcement, 9:30 a.m. GMT this morning. We have average earnings index 3 months to the year. Quite a lot of news out for sterling. So is that going to factor in today? On top of that, we have all the US data this afternoon. There's a lot of news today, guys, and a smattering of CPI year-on-year results for euro, as well as core CPI year-on-year figures. Very important. If price fails to find support at 15,800, then we could expect at least price to make another attempt to at least 23.6%, and ultimately down here at the 0% line, which is way down at 15,3500, which coincides with a massive bounce on price support and resistance going back a number of months. In fact, this entire year. Okay, so that's that's going to be our potential long-term target for this, is to see that playing out. But as it stands now, the 38.2% line, price support and resistance in play. Price has cut through that during the Asian session. It'll be nice to see that. We've got to see that close below 15,800 to see any further progression to the downside. Now we've taken the high to the low. Let's take one from the low to the high to see if there's any smaller time frame support and resistance levels. You can see 38.2 last night. We actually bounced on it, and then the Asian session opened lower, and we've headed to 38.2 intraday. So you can see the 238.2 areas actually working together here as a team. A great teamwork. Let me just turn that. There we go. And sorry, the 61.8, apologies, and 38. As it stands now, we've got 50% as our next potential target at price support and resistance here at roughly the 157200 mark. Intraday, 157200 mark would be our next potential target if and when we found support below 38.2. So as it stands now, the two that you're really interested in are, you want the 38.2 at 15,800 to be your psychological resistance level. Okay, this price has got to stay below that. And then your first target intraday could very well be the 1572-7300 mark. Okay, so make a note of that. Break below that, then we could be looking at way down here at 38.2, which is a long way off at 156200. So make a note of that as well. Okay, so I'm just drawing lines of these because these all confirm when I move to our intraday charts. If we do find support at 15,800 and it bounces, then we've got to see price trading above the high or the close of last night, or the high of this morning, here above the 61.8 mark, which is roughly the 15,8300 mark. A break and a bounce higher than 15,8300 would potentially look at consolidation to the 50% line, which is 1595. You can see how I'm drawing a picture. Okay, so price is trading at 50% line, which happens to be coincide with 38.2, which happens to be price support and resistance at the 15,800. Price is trading through it at the moment. It's got to close lower during the course or today. If it closes lower today, then we're going to confirm that we should be looking for further extensions lower to at least 50, ultimately down to 38. A slight pause between 38 and 23 before we see another extension down to 2300 and ultimately way down here to the 150, 130 mark. So as it stands now, got to see this line over here. Oops, apologies. Let me see if I can do this right. That line acting as a strong resistance level. So I'm going to make that nice and thick. Okay, and then we're going to go down to our 30-minute charts. Let's have a look and see what's happening on 30-minute. There we go. So their black line, as long as price is trading below that, then it's good. We could see further extensions to the downside. Further indication of resistance, and you can see price action at the moment now, pretty much testing that downside trend intraday on our 30-minute. CTC is well extended to the downside. Most importantly, all our moving averages are above price. A lot of air between the 50 and 200 institution moving average. It's a good sign. Seen a slight support being found intraday. Okay, as we headed into the European session open, as I mentioned, a lot of news out in euro and sterling, which might coincide, but you can see all important down here, the next target, if and when we break below that area here. If you haven't got into this trade, if you haven't been trading in it for the past couple of days, your next entry would be roughly below the 1575.50 mark, and your first target would be down here at 1572.50 at least. So there's a couple of pips in that trade intraday. Okay, guys, if we see a break above the trend line and price closes above 1579 or 80, then we should be looking back up at 83, and break up above 83 we should be looking back up to the institution moving average, which is price support and resistance here, where we saw the breakout at the 5900 mark. Next up is US dollar Swiss franc. Okay, guys, let's have a look at this pair. Notice we've seen price actually moving higher, beautiful, after bouncing on the 86. 86 happens to be psychological 120 on the euro Swiss franc. US dollar Swiss franc is the 8600 mark. The low to the high, I'm just going to put in that 8600 mark because that was very, very important, because that's where price was pegged on the euro Swiss franc. On the US dollar Swiss franc, it's just the 8600 mark, and you can quite clearly see a lot of selling into that. But wow, how weird, trading with all the moving averages, and we saw a bounce. It's because of that 86, and psychologically people would have made a note of that, going, if we broke through the 86 in this downside here, we could have seen the Swiss government reinstating intervention again, because that's what happened over here. Okay, so people were actually, I think it actually sold up here with this bearish engulfing candle here at exhaustion. Would have gone, well, target way back down to 86, and we'll take profit as we hit that. And you can see a lot of selling into it, and then boop, morning star formation on a support, and we saw price moving to the upside. And you can see price has been moving nicely in an upside trend. Higher swings depicts upside trend. Swing high, swing high, swing high. And as it stands now, we're moving tentatively to the upside, and 9300 would be our potential target overall. Movements, nice bullish engulfing. Price moving higher, but slightly pulling it back. You can see very tentatively moving higher, but those candles still closing higher than the previous one, so indicating further, and price is still moving to the upside. Moving average is all below price, and most importantly, our CTC on our daily is giving us the all system go. So as it stands now, we should be looking at 9300 as our next potential target for this pair overall. We had a high way back here in June of 2010, so let's have a look and see if there's anything in the way. No. If I do extension to the lows over here that we saw in August, you can quite clearly see our next potential target is way up here at 94.50. So there's still a lot of room to move. Still a lot of room to move between now and then. But our first target would be obviously the previous high. Okay, once we break above the previous high, then we'll set our target at 94.50. Got to give yourself simple goals, and when you reach those goals, then shoot for the stars for the next potential one. Got to keep it simple. Okay, so everything at the moment now, CTC is looking great. We're moving higher. Everything's looking fantastic. As it stands now, you can see we're trading above the prior resistance just recently, which would have been this one over here. So make a note of that. If price pulls back, then as long as it stays above the 9100, then we should see further extension. We could see just a consolidation before we see another attempt to the upside. It'll be important is to note how relative strength is doing in this upside trend. Okay, So what you could do is just make a note of that at 91.10, 9300, and let's go to the hourly to see exactly what is happening intraday. Okay, as I mentioned, we're looking at the hourly of the inch chart and wanted to see what relative strength is doing. I've plotted there 9100. This is where price in this upside trend, as long as it can stay above that, then obviously we could see just a further consolidation with outlook going back up to 9300, which is our ultimate all-time high that we're going to. Notice what RSI is doing at the moment now. Okay, as price has been heading higher, RSI is starting to weaken. Okay, you can see those highs, the prior highs, are not getting any higher. Just recently, these two highs over here in particular, that attempt, which is higher than these ones over there, and that one over there, you can see they are a lot lower than the previous attempt, which was way back here. Okay, and it's at 70 and just trading below. So it's giving you an idea that we are seeing a slowdown as we head higher. You notice over here, for example, same thing occurred over here. RSI was way, and then we had another attempt, but which was a lot lower than that, but that happened at prior resistance, and we saw price pulling back. It's the same as it's likely to occur on this pair as we head higher towards 9300. We could see price starting to consolidate, and what we can do is take the lows over here, for example, and just have a look and see where price could move to. So if that's the high, then we could be looking at roughly the 23.6 area, roughly around about 916 as our next potential pullback target on this pair. So just keep that in mind, guys, for this pair. We are seeing slight consolidation. As price is moving higher, there is consolidation occurring. 90, and I said 0.93, which is, if you think about it now, we're trading at 92, so 93 is not too far off. Just be aware of that, looking at for any entries for intraday. Last pair of the day is US dollar Japanese yen. Intervention candle, massive candle to the upside, but not much sentiment going with that. Not many people really favoring any further upside movement with the US dollar against Japanese yen, and like we've seen before, just recently in August, it's fallen all the way back down again. Just by looking at the low of this candle to the high, you can see that the 38.2 was used quite a lot as a support area around the 7800 mark, and then a break below, and we've seen price falling to these areas to 50, 261, and now it's trading on the underside of 61 after an indecision candle yesterday. Look for further extensions lower, as price looks like it's actually found a resistance now at the 61.8 level. Let's see if it moves even further to the downside. Just moving into our hourly chart on the Japanese yen. If you take the high that we saw back here on the 3rd or 4th of this month and take a fib retracement level down to the 0 to the low that we've seen recently on the 14th, you can see that 23.6 mark is above us at 77.15. Notice price actually testing us above that recently, but not breaking, closing higher. As long as we can stay below that level on this time frame over here, then ultimately we're just seeing a consolidation against the major downside trend, and if price can close below that going into the Asian or close of this evening, then we should be looking for potential for reattempts at least to 76.80, and a break below 76.80 would definitely be looking at further downside movement. As I mentioned, ideally we'd like to be trading below the 7700, which is on a daily, that area at 61.8. So if price can stay below this line, the second one over here, then great. But intraday, as long as it's staying below, and let's make it a lot easier. If it stays below 77.15, excuse me, air pockets, then we should be looking for further extensions lower. Okay, the moment it starts getting above that, you can see that there seems to be more consolidation now after a lot of movement, a lot of consolidation, then a movement, a lot of consolidation, then we're expecting another movement. RSI is still below 50. Okay, we can see it's been consolidating here. In fact, as price moved lower here, you can see the RSI was giving us a signal that we were oversold and we should see extensions higher, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. We're seeing a bounce. This one over here hasn't quite been the low there, and we're seeing higher. That one there is still and higher, so that's all confirming, but it's got to stay below 77.15. The moment it starts creeping above 50, you should see price retesting 77.15. If it closes above it with a nice bullish engulfing, Then ultimately we should be looking at 77.35 as our first target intraday, and then back up to the 50 here, which is the institutional moving average, which is price support and resistance when we had the breakout here at the 77.5300. So you can see I'm putting a price together. So if price is still to fall intraday, we need to stay below 77.15. If it gets above this area here, then look for targets 1 and 2 to the upside. Very, very important. That's it, guys. Hope you have a fantastic trading day. Make sure you follow the rules of the CTC, and make sure you back it up with sound money management. We have a lot of news out today, guys. Please factor that into your trading. It will make some swirls. It will reflect on the charts, guaranteed. Bank of England inflation report later on this morning. It's going to be an important one for sterling. And then we have for CPI results, very, very important for the European sector. Core year-on-year figures for CPI. And we have loads of news for the US dollar this afternoon. We have their CPI results at 1:30 GMT. Industrial production month-on-month figures seems to be slightly higher than the previous. So the forecast is 0.4, which is better than 0.2. So that could be interesting to see. We've seen the US dollar index growing, getting stronger over the past couple of months. Good sign that. But as it stands now, please look at your news and see if it reflects. And don't trade. If you're not in any trades, don't be trading when you see a lot of these news presented. Okay. Have a fantastic day. As I mentioned, keep it simple. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Trade serenely.